The second that golden orb appeared, Arata thought his dream of becoming a slayer was finally about to come true, but he couldn't even lay a finger on it. Before he had the chance, his piece of garbage father snatched it right out of the air, saying it would probably sell for a pretty penny. When Arata's brother Ryu tried to step in, their deadbeat dad kicked him so hard he flew back and slammed into the wall. After ditching them, their father went straight to a dude named Takatora and pawned off the golden orb for a cool 30 million. Years flew by, and one day Arata and Ryu were watching the news where some so-called hero was saving the world. This guy was on TV bragging about his own golden orb, the one with a distinct blue ring around it. They knew it was theirs in a heartbeat, because in all of Japan, there's only one golden orb for each element. That meant no cap the orb on TV was the one stolen from Arata. You already know they pulled up on him immediately to get it back. When Ryu demanded Takatora return his brother's orb, the guy played dumb, and let's just say that sent Ryu into a rage. Seeing he had no other option, Takatora told them he'd show them where the orb was leading them, into a separate room. And that's the moment that the cold hard truth hit them. They had walked straight into a trap. A soul-snatching creature was waiting inside, and before they could even react, the door slammed shut. Takatora locked them in from the outside, and instantly the creature inside fired a dark soul right at Arata. But, like the best damn brother he could be, Ryu shoved Arata out of the way, taking the full force of the blast himself. As Ryu's body started twisting and changing, he told Arata he always believed in him, right before he transformed into a massive four-armed ogre. Seeing his brother become a monster right before his eyes absolutely shattered Arata. He blamed himself for everything that had just happened, but he refused to stay down. He told himself this wasn't on him. This was the fault of the greedy, selfish people who had stolen his entire life from him. In that moment of pure rage, a dark orb materialized in front of him, as if some cosmic entity was listening in. Without a second of hesitation, Arata reached out his hand towards it. The orb merged with him instantly, sending a tidal wave of agony through his body as the transformation began. As he's screaming, trying to hold on to his sanity, a system notification pops up, telling him he's received the protection of the demon realm. On top of that, he gets a whole new skill set, including Blast Shadow Blade, Blast Armor, and Blast Flash. Bro, just got a demon starter pack. Meanwhile, on the other side of the door, Takatora is laughing his head off, mocking the two brothers and talking about his grand plan to kill them. The dude is literally bragging about how he's going to use them as EXP fodder to level up his own high status. He's convinced that because the boys are just peasants, he's already dealt with the problem for good. But little did he know Arata was in the middle of a serious glow-up. When the excruciating pain finally starts to fade, it clicks for Arata that he might have just absorbed the entire power of that dark orb. He's still trying to process this when his brother, now a full-blown monster, comes charging at him, ready to crush him into a pancake. But before the blow can even land, Arata finds his body moving on its own, a blur of motion. Arata can't believe it. He somehow dodged the attack on pure instinct, and his body feels incredibly light. That's when he notices a status screen hovering in the air right in front of him, showing his level stats, a list of his new skills, and even a health bar. My boy just became a real... Since this is all brand new, he has no idea if he's a slayer or something else entirely. He's still trying to wrap his head around it all. When his brother comes charging at him again, Arata screams at the top of his lungs, trying to reach the person still inside the monster. He begs him not to let the dark energy completely take over. Arata swears to his brother that he's going to save him, because this time it's his turn to be the protector. He refuses to budge an inch, and just as the beast's claws are about to shred him, it suddenly freezes, letting out a scream of pure frustration. Then it smashes through the wall behind them and makes a run for it. Arata is completely stunned. He realizes there must still be a part of his brother left inside that monster. He didn't finish the attack, he ran away. And then a horrible thought hits Arata. His brother is now a target for every slayer out there. He knows what he has to do. He needs to find his brother before the slayers do. But just as he makes his decision, a magic fissure rips open the air in front of him, and a terrifying new beast crawls out from the crack. With zero hesitation, the beast lunges at Arata, trying to slash and skewer him on the spot. Arata leaps backward, dodging a punch that completely shatters the ground where he was just standing. He's still trying to process the situation when the beast's tail whips around and smacks him hard. Arata gets sent flying, crashing straight into a wall. Pain explodes through his body, and it hits him. This monster is no joke, and definitely not something to be messed with. Arata realizes he needs to end this fight quickly, so he can get back to searching for his brother. Just then, it clicks in his brain that he's actually got some new skills, like the Blast Shadow Blade. He also has Blast Armor and Blast Flash, though they're all still at level 1. The thought that he's a slayer now, too, changes everything. A surge of confidence fills Arata, and he's ready to stand his ground as the beast attacks again. As the monster charges straight for him, Arata unleashes his blast flash. A blast of dark energy erupts, sending the beast flying backward. Arata tries to catch his breath for a second, but the beast is already charging him again, and before he knows it, he's slammed against the wall once more. He feels his body starting to fail him, the control slipping away. Arata can't believe it. He finally got the power he always dreamed of, only to die moments after getting it. He wonders if this is it, if he's going to bite the dust without doing a single meaningful thing, especially saving his brother. Just as the beast is about to land the final blow, Arata enters a flow state, a sick dark purple aura swirling all around him. When he opens his eyes, they're blazing with a bright vampiric light. Then out of nowhere, a volley of projectiles slams into the beast, causing it to scream out in pure agony. Arata blacks out, and when he wakes up, the beast is lying dead in front of him, its body riddled with several different weapons. He's in total shock, wondering if he was the one who actually defeated it. He has absolutely no idea what just happened. The system dings, notifying him he's reached level 3. It finally sinks in that he actually leveled up. He must have gotten a massive stat boost for beating that beast, but right now he couldn't care less about getting stronger. He pushes all those thoughts aside to focus on what's important, finding his brother. Arata drags himself to his feet and stumbles out onto the street looking completely battered when an image of Takatora flashes through his mind. A fresh wave of rage burns inside him, and Arata becomes dead set on the fact that he's never going to forgive that guy. But with that thought, the last bit of his strength vanishes, and he passes out cold on the streets. Meanwhile, Takatora has returned to the room to confirm the brothers were dead, only to find a demolished wall and the place in total chaos. Takatora is floored when he sees the scene. There's no way he ever expected the brothers to be capable of escaping his trap. Later, Arata slowly wakes up memories he shared with his brother playing in his head. He looks around and finds himself in a completely unfamiliar place, which looks like some kind of infirmary. The last thing he can recall is going to the Goto building and fighting that creature. Suddenly, it all comes rushing back. His brother was turned into a beast, and he has to save him. Arata is about to throw himself out of bed when a nurse suddenly enters the room holding some medical supplies. She immediately tells Arata that he needs to stay in bed and rest. Arata stammers, completely at a loss for words. The nurse explains they received a call that he had collapsed on the roadside, and then points to all of his injuries, the ones he got from that intense fight with the beast. Arata had totally forgotten about all of this. But the nurse's words jolted his memory, and Arata asks where he is. The lady calmly replies that he's at a Slayer relief station. The nurse adds that she sees this kind of thing all the time, since rookie Slayers tend to go way too hard in their first fight. That's how most of them end up in a hospital bed. Arata is stunned to hear he's in a relief station, and immediately starts to wonder who on earth could have brought him there. The nurse starts lecturing him, saying he needs to go join a guild and get an official Slayer badge. She's just about to get into the nitty-gritty of all the benefits that come with guild membership, but Arata completely shuts her down mid-sentence. He just tells her he's got places to be, and she immediately goes into full-on mom mode, shouting that he isn't allowed to be moving around yet. It's way too soon, and his body absolutely needs the... Arata, defeated, just flops back onto the bed. Seeing this, the nurse finally leaves, but not before telling him to wait right there for her. The absolute second she's gone, Arata bolts out of bed and heads straight for the door. As he gets there, he overhears a couple of guys chatting about that magic beast that just showed up near the Goto building. It doesn't take long for the horrifying realization to set in that beast they were discussing is his brother. He also picks up on the fact that some unidentified Slayer is apparently tagging along with him. The dudes are saying it's going to be a massive headache for them if the beast manages to slip into a magic fissure. Arata instantly connects the dots. The guild is actively hunting his brother, and he knows it's only a matter of time. Beast before they track him down and put him in the ground for good. Arata knows he's on a clock and has to find his brother like yesterday. When the nurse finally gets back to the room, she finds it empty. Our boy made a classic escape right out the window. Arata is now tearing through the streets, completely panicked that his brother is about to get a one-way ticket to the afterlife. He remembers the conversation about a magic fissure and puts two and two together. There's a high chance his brother is trapped inside one of them. With that horrifying thought, Arata makes up his mind he's going to check every single magic fissure in the vicinity. All of a sudden, an alert blasts out over the city's public system, warning that a magic fissure has just opened up in the Asagi area. The message is clear: all civilians need to get the hell out of there. The timing is way too sus to be a coincidence, so Arata decides that's his first stop. He gets to the location of the crack and sees that it's just a low-level bronze rank fissure. He also notices a barrier is already up around it, which can only mean someone from the association has already been on site. but strangely he can't sense the presence of a single slayer anywhere nearby. Since this is literally his first time ever stepping into a magic fissure, he's understandably a little nervous, and not gonna lie, pretty scared. But that fear gets shoved to the back of his mind when he remembers why he's here. He has to save his brother no matter what. The instant he crosses the threshold, a system notification pops up, announcing that a party has entered to clear the fissure. Arata is absolutely floored by the sight that greets him on the other side. It's a freaking desert, a world completely alien from the city he just left, and he has zero clue where in this vast wasteland his brother could possibly be. With no other leads, he figures his only option is to push deeper into the... Just then, a quest notification pops up. Defeat the boss to clear the fissure. Well, if there's a boss Arata's willing to bet, it's hiding out in the deepest, most dangerous part of this place. But he also knows that getting there means fighting through hordes of other beasts, and a seed of doubt starts to grow. Can he actually handle what's coming? That question barely has time to echo in his mind before a level 3 beast spawns right in front of him. He recalls taking down a beast just the day before, but he's not entirely sure if that was a fluke or a sign of his actual strength. Regardless, he knows he's out of options. It's fight or die. He quickly taps into his skill list and summons the Shadow Blade. A wave of relief washes over Arata when the skill actually activates. The beast lunges jaws wide open, but Arata manages to throw up his Shadow Sword just in time, blocking the vicious bite. He's struggling hard, gritting his teeth, as he pushes back with every ounce of strength he can muster. But it's not enough. The beast's raw power sends him stumbling backward. And in that moment, it finally hits him. This is what it really means to fight a monster. All that training with his brother, it feels like it counts for Jack Squad against the real thing. Still, he shakes it off, focuses up, and in a flash, he blitzes the beast, slicing it into pieces. The moment it falls, a notification dings. He's leveled up, jumping straight from level 3 to level 5. But before he can even catch his breath, a whole pack of monsters materializes right in front of him. An icy wave of pure dread crashes over him. Arata's mind is reeling. There's no way a measly bronze-ranked dungeon should be spawning this many mobs. He's left wondering if he even stands a chance if all those things decide to jump him at once. Instead of letting fear get the best of him, Arata was ready to throw down with these monsters. He was banking on being able to use that totally busted skill from the day before, thinking it gave him a fighting chance. But the second those creatures started charging him, Arata knew he was so screwed. The problem was he didn't have a clue how to actually activate that OP skill on command. Right as he was about to be turned into Monster Chow, a massive inferno erupts from nowhere and completely torches the beasts. Arata's just standing there shook when a voice behind him demands to know what kind of skill he just pulled off. But our boy can't even answer. He's just completely blown away by the sheer destructive power he just witnessed. This unknown dude is staring Arata down like he's a major threat, revealing that the association called him about an unidentified slayer in the area. And judging by the massive explosion he just saw, he's pretty damn sure Arata's the guy he's looking for. Arata gets a good look at him and immediately clocks the powerful aura. This guy is a top-tier golden slayer with a fire attribute. This new character's name is Ryo Kuji, and he's a big deal. Not just anyone, he's a core member of the notorious Lion Flame Guild. And he didn't come alone. He's rolling deep with 2 other slayers, Shumaki Shima and Hayato Akagi, both of them silver ranked, which is nothing to sneeze at. Arata is bugging out, wondering why a VIP like him, one of the 5 great kings, is even here. A few leftover monsters try to interrupt their little chat, and Ryo, looking bored, just snaps his fingers and angrily burns them to a crisp. He leaves a smoldering crater behind, pretty much just flexing hard in front of our main character. This hits different for Arata, who's seeing the power of a Golden Slayer up close for the very first time. Ryo casually walks up to him, commenting on how strange it is for so many monsters to be swarming a low-level bronze-rank fisher. Ryo then gestures to Arata's Shadow Sword, getting straight to the point and asking what his skill is. That question totally blindsides Arata because he has been desperately wondering the exact same thing. The only thing he knows is that his ability doesn't fit into any of the 5 main attributes, but that's it. This just makes Ryo even more curious, saying, Arata is a real weirdo using a skill that's even weirder. With a dead serious look, Ryo then demands to know what the hell he's doing in this fissure in the first place. Arata immediately realizes he can't say he's looking for his brother. If he does that, they'll just label him a target for subjugation too. No cap. So Arata decides to just play it cool, ignore the question, and try to dip. He gives Ryo a quick, thanks for the save, and just starts to walk off. See, orbs are supposed to resonate with a person's inner power. They manifest an attribute that's closest to what the user is all about. Every slayer knows this, but when Ryo looks at Arata, he sees none of that. It doesn't add up, and that's when it all clicks for Ryo. He stops Arata and says he's finally figured him out. He calls him the irregular slayer they've all been hearing rumors about. Arata stops and tries to argue. He plays dumb, saying he has no idea what that's supposed to mean, and that he really has to go, but Ryo cuts him off. He drops the bomb that the association themselves ordered him to bring Arata in for questioning. Ryo cracks his knuckles and says, "Don't take it personally, kid," before launching himself at Arata with a punch wrapped in flames. Just before the fire blast connects, Arata instinctively raises his sword to block the attack. To Arata's complete shock, his shadow sword is completely disintegrated by Ryo's overwhelming power. Even Ryo seems surprised the sword just vanished. Arata scrambles backward to make some space, but Ryo is just getting warmed up. Ryo tells his lackeys not to interfere, smirking, because he's actually starting to enjoy this little fight. His two subordinates immediately obey, but at the same time they're scared they'll get turned to dust. They know if their boss gets serious, they could easily get caught in the crossfire and just get deleted. Ryo doesn't waste a second before he lets loose a fresh barrage of fireballs aimed right at Arata. Arata realizes he is in serious danger and makes a desperate dive behind a large rock to avoid the fiery impact. When the blazing inferno finally dies down, he tells Arata to just surrender now if he doesn't want to get turned into a pile of charcoal. Hiding behind a rock, it hits Arata like a ton of bricks that he's never going to see his brother again if he gets caught by Ryo. And just like that, Ryo leaps into the air and launches a massive fireball. This thing's basically a heat-seeking missile aimed right at him. Realizing his cover is blown, Arata dives out of the way. He manages to dodge the hit by a hair's breadth. Ryo lands looking smug, telling Arata that playing hide-and-seek isn't gonna cut it. While Ryo is just laughing his head off, Arata is frantically doom-scrolling through his skill list, trying to find something to use against this lunatic. This dude is giving off major Firelord Ozai vibes, no cap. Arata finally finds a skill that he thinks will come in clutch. Arata gets back on his feet, and you can tell from his new stance that the whole vibe has shifted. Ryo clocks it immediately. As Arata holds his hands out, Ryo scoffs, saying that whatever parlor trick he's about to pull is totally useless against him, same as always. To prove his point, Ryo hurls a whole barrage of fireballs right at Arata. But just as they're about to make contact, Arata pops his new skill and straight up absorbs the flames. The move definitely takes a toll on him, but he's still on his feet. Ryo finally realizes this kid isn't just some random scrub. Still, Ryo flexes some even crazier firepower, telling Arata to just surrender if he doesn't want to get smoked. Arata responds by summoning an even longer shadow sword, declaring that his brother is waiting for him, and he can't be stopped here. The moment he says brother, it hits Ryo different, making him lose his focus for a split second. That's all the opening Arata needs to launch himself forward. By the time Ryo snaps out of his daze, Arata is already flying at him with his sword. At the very last second, Ryo manages to block the attack. Using the armor on his wrist, he successfully holds his ground. But he can tell something in Arata is built different now. After a brief standoff, Arata suddenly backs off and tells Ryo he's got to go no further explanation. Ryo is stunned by this. He tells Arata that if he's serious about protecting someone, then he's the one who needs to defeat the boss. Arata is shocked, realizing that for the first time, Ryo is actually talking to him, not at him. Ryo continues telling Arata he needs to level up way faster and to stop being so reckless, because at this rate, he's just going to burn himself out. Arata cracks a smile and thanks Ryo for the advice before taking off. Ryo watches him leave with a grin that screams, "Proud dad." His subordinates run up reporting that they've taken care of all the beasts in the area, but Ryo just replies that Arata is one fiery kid. His two goons are absolutely floored to see Ryo smiling, which is a sign that he's actually in a good mood for once. Meanwhile, back at the Navy Guild, a report comes in about another magic fissure. The guildmaster sends one of her top-tier silver slayers, Aoi Ichika, to handle the fissure. And unlike most people, you can tell Ichika is absolutely stoked to get into a fight. It's written all over her face. A while later, Arata gets forcibly kicked out of the fissure because someone already defeated the boss, and he's pretty sure it was Ryo. Even before the dungeon was cleared, Arata had searched high and low, but there was zero sign of his brother anywhere. Arata then sees a news report asking people to call in if they spot the magic beast. Seeing this solidifies his next move. He figures he can't rely on anyone else to help him, and he has no other choice but to take care of everything himself. Right on cue, he gets an alert that a new magic fissure is opening up in District 4. As usual, every resident in the area gets a warning pinged to their phone telling them to get out of the area ASAP. Since the district is pretty close to his current location, Arata decides he has to check it out. He bolts toward the area, hoping no other slayers get there before him. He arrives to see it's only a bronze-ranked fissure. Since the fissure hasn't been cleared yet, Arata holds onto a sliver of hope that his brother might be inside. But just as he's about to step into the portal, two guys from the Navy Guild Hanamida and Ishinari show up. They immediately tell him that the fissure is completely off limits. But things get real spicy when the two guards realize Arata doesn't even have a badge. They immediately start roasting him, no holding back. They're calling him some F-tier scrub who couldn't even get into a guild. In their eyes, he's just a normal slayer. And in the world of slayers, being called normal means you're at the absolute bottom of the food chain. Meanwhile, Gagui, a gold-rank slayer, is basically... Arata is low-key stunned by the audacity of these two, wondering who the hell they even are as they keep running their mouths. Turns out, they're bragging that their master is the one who's going to clear this fissure. Because of that, they tell Arata that nobody else gets to go in, especially a piece of trash like him. Arata is completely lost, having no clue what they're on about, and tries to tell them he's got a damn good reason for needing to get inside and fast. The two basically tell Arata they don't give a damn about his reasons, because there's zero chance they're letting him pass. Then they take it to a whole new level by straight up attacking him. Arata, being built different, easily dodges before the hit can land. He tries to keep a cool head, telling the two clowns that he's seriously in a hurry. However, when Arata sees that they have absolutely zero chill, he finally decides it's time to teach them a lesson in pain. He whips out his shadow blade and blitzes toward the duo, ready to show them what real trouble looks like. But all of a sudden, he can't move his feet. He looks down and realizes he's caught in a nasty mud trap set by these annoying goons. Before he can process what's happening, he starts sinking into the mud, which he quickly finds out is completely bottomless. He knows he's about to get clapped if he doesn't figure something out. But for now, Arata can only glare at the two, completely stuck. Just then, a voice from behind them cuts in, asking the two bullies what they think they're doing to Arata. They spin around, and the voice belongs to Aoi Ichika. The two are totally shocked to see her. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere near here. Without wasting a second, Aoi turns to Arata and uses her power to save him. With a wave of water, she effortlessly lifts Arata right out of the mud. Aoi then demands to know why slayers are out here fighting each other. Still trying to catch his breath, Arata explains to Aoi that these two Hanamida and Ishinari are blocking him from getting into the fissure. Aoi's heard rumors about slayers who jump into fissures before they've been properly checked out. They do it to conquer the dungeon solo and hog all the rewards for themselves, and looking at these two losers, she figures out they're exactly that type of greedy player. The duo realizes Aoi is going to be a major problem, and decides they have to stop her no matter what. They're cocky, thinking they can easily overpower her. After all, she's just a support slayer. The two don't even hesitate launching their ice powers right at her, but Aoi just throws up a barrier, casually protecting both herself and Arata. After blocking their first volley, Aoi looks at Arata and tells him to fight them while she backs him up. Arata is shook, admitting he's never actually fought another person before, but since they're out of options, he agrees to do it. Aoi thanks him for trusting her and then pops one of her skills, Merlin Schnell. The skill instantly buffs Arata, and he can feel the power surge as his entire body becomes incredibly light. This hits different than before. Aoi reassures him that the fight is going to be way easier now, so he's free to go all out on these delinquents while she keeps him buffed with her skills. Arata is more than happy to accept, and charges the duo at a speed so fast it's just a blur. They're completely stunned. Arata is way faster now, and before they can even blink, he smacks them with his Slayer Blade. He takes them both down with just one clean strike. Best part is, Arata doesn't feel any backlash or exhaustion. He just did all that, and when he checks his stats, he sees they've absolutely skyrocketed. His AI starts freaking out, asking him if he just murked those two, but Arata quickly clarifies that he only hit them with the flat of the blade. Aoi is relieved to hear that, but she's still pissed that two dudes from her own guild are out here, acting a fool and embarrassing the whole squad. Arata clocks the Water Slayer badge on her chest and instantly puts two and two together. She's gotta be from Takatora's guild. The two of them finally get to introducing themselves, and Awa actually gives him props, admitting he's decently strong, but before they can chat anymore, they hear the two clowns they just schooled scrambling to their feet to make a run for it. As they're booking it, they drop their master's name, and it turns out to be none other than Takatora. This totally grabs Arata's attention, and suddenly Aoi is locked in too. She reveals she's planning on spilling the tea to the Guildmaster Ray about all the shady stuff Takatora's been pulling behind his back. Once the bullies are gone, Aoi gets them back on track, reminding Arata they've still got a fissure to clear. Arata's a bit hesitant, but Aoi tells him not to worry since the rest of the guild will be showing up soon. She lets him know she can still fight alongside him until then, because she already got permission to clear the fissure herself. Arata is genuinely confused by this, so Aoi explains that teaming up is the smart move, especially with all the reports that low-rank fishers have been showing some seriously abnormal and freaky features lately. On top of that, Oyui is a support slayer, and Arata can't forget how her earlier buff was absolutely cracked. He finally gets a chance to thank her, and Awa asks him again if he's down to take on the Fisher with her. Since an offer this good is basically a godsend, Arata doesn't hesitate to agree. Hyped about their new partnership, the two of them dive into the fissure, ready to cause some serious damage. The moment they step inside, Arata is shook. This place is a whole different beast from the last one. It looks more like a creepy cave with sketchy spots everywhere, and Aoi explains that the inside of a fissure is basically a different dimension. That's why they never really know what kind of hellscape they're walking into. Aoi suggests they stay on their toes, and Arata is 100% on board with that plan. As they venture deeper, Arata realizes there isn't a single magic beast in sight, and what's more, his older brother is completely MIA. Arata knew it wouldn't be easy to find him, but since he's been blessed with this insane opportunity to run a fissure with a silver-ranked slayer, he plans on learning the ropes of proper combat while grinding some serious EXP. They suddenly run into a level 5 goblin that looks like it wants to paint the walls with their insides. Arata remembers how much he struggled with just one goblin the day before, even though they're meant to be the weakest mobs around. Without a second thought, Arata lunges at the goblin and cleanly separates its head from its shoulders. Arata's still grinning about his victory when a whole damn army of them materializes out of thin air. Fear hits him like a truck when he sees the sheer number of them, and he starts to wonder if he actually has what it takes to bring all these goblins down. Just then he feels that familiar surge as Aoi buffs him up, sending his stats through the roof. From the backline, Aoi gives him a confident smirk and tells him to show these goblins who's really in charge. Arata happily obliges, tearing through the goblins with zero mercy, and after wiping out the entire troop, he dings leveling up from 5 to 6. Aoi gives him a nod, commending him on the solid work. She says that with her backing him up, even bronze-rank beasts should be a cakewalk, and Arata can't help but agree. He tells her his whole body is just buzzing with raw power. Aoi puffs out her chest, boasting that in their guild, they call her the linchpin of rear support for a reason. But all of a sudden, Arata senses a seriously dark presence creeping up right behind them. He screams at Aoi, warning her that there's danger right on her 6. A goblin is mid-lunge, ready to slash her to pieces, but Aoi's shield pops up just in time to block the attack. Aoi whips around, a look of pure rage on her face, and completely obliterates the goblin. Arata is just blown away. Seeing how she can flawlessly chain multiple skills in a split second just goes to show what a seasoned veteran she is. She's not just agile, her ability to support her teammates is on a whole other level. Aoi notices Arata is totally lost in thought and snaps him out of it, reminding him that they need to keep moving. Arata is already looking at Aoi like she's a living legend and makes a vow to grind until he's just as strong as she is. Arata admits that he just wants to be strong enough to protect people the same way she does, and Aoi just cracks a smile. She tells him that's a pretty solid goal to have. But then she hits him with a reality check, saying he'll first have to take down the goblin horde that's got them completely surrounded. That's when it finally sinks in for Arata. They're deep in enemy territory, and he's wondering how in the world he's supposed to fight this many goblins. But when he glances over at Aoi, he sees she's as cool as a cucumber with absolutely zero. Just like before, Aoi hooks him up with a buff and basically tells him to go to town on the goblin mob. Her support just hits different, and it lights a fire in him, giving him the determination he desperately needed. He dives headfirst into the horde, slicing and dicing through the goblins without a shred of mercy. With every monster he takes down, he levels up on the fly, and in what feels like no time at all, Arata has wiped out the entire goblin squad. A system notification pops up, letting him know he didn't just level up once he skyrocketed from level 6. All the way to level 10, Arata is low-key freaking out, but as a reward for hitting level 10, he unlocks a brand new skill. It's called the Blast Cannon, but his hype gets shut down real quick when a fresh wave of goblin monsters shows up out of nowhere, and this time they brought friends. The sheer size of this new army is enough to send a shiver down even Aoi's spine. Aoi tells him their only shot is to strike first before they get completely overwhelmed. She calls his skills a bit weird, but asks if he has any way to attack from a distance, because if he doesn't, they're about to get steamrolled. Ranged attack. A light bulb goes off in Arata's head as he remembers the new skill he just got, the Blast Cannon. Bruh, this skill was practically made for this exact situation. Without a second thought, Arata activates it and unleashes hell on the goblins. A massive wave of magic erupts from his palm, instantly vaporizing a huge chunk of the enemy's front line. But Arata doesn't stop there, spamming the cannon over and over again. And before he even realizes it, the entire goblin army has been completely wiped off the map. Aoi just turns and looks at him, Then she smiles. No cap, that's all the validation Arata needed. He's just glad he was able to live up to her expectations. Aoi suggests it's time to head for the boss's room, and Arata is all for it. Right on cue, a notification pops up, telling him he's now level 12. A few moments later, they make it to the deepest part of the dungeon. Aoi tells Arata she can feel the boss's energy radiating from inside the dark cave ahead. She warns him to be careful as they press forward. Arata's nervous since this is his first real boss fight, but his drive to protect the girl beside him completely overrides his fear. They finally find the boss, and it turns out to be a massive level 15 ogre. The beast gets up from its throne and starts mumbling something in a language that's total gibberish to Arata. Without wasting any time, the monster unleashes a powerful blast of lightning from its staff. Aoi jumps in front of Arata, telling him to leave this attack to her. She uses one of her skills to create a shield blocking the attack, but she can only manage to hold it for a few seconds. The sheer force of the blast sends her flying backward onto the ground. Aoi is completely shook by the power of that lightning. This was supposed to be a simple bronze rank boss. The boss starts charging another lightning attack, and Aoi shouts that they're never going to get close to it. Not as long as the boss can keep spamming them with these insane ranged attacks. Aoi quickly tells Arata her plan she'll act as the shield and draw its fire. While she defends, Arata needs to find an opening for a counterattack. He can see she's struggling, but Aoi just tells him not to worry about her. But the whole idea of always being the one who needs protection seriously pisses Arata off. While the ogre is busy blasting away at Aoi, he charges forward. Once he gets into the perfect position, he aims and fires his blast cannon right at the ogre. Arata's attack is a direct hit, completely shattering the ogre's staff and taking away its ability to use any long-range magic. Aoi celebrates his clutch play, but the ogre is beyond furious and hurls the broken remains of its weapon straight at Arata. The sudden rage-fueled throw leaves Arata completely exposed and wide open for the attack. He tries to move, but he knows instantly that he isn't going to make it in time. Before he can even react, the shattered weapon impales him. Blood pours from Arata's mouth as he collapses to the ground in a heap. Without a moment's hesitation, Aoi rushes to his side to check on him immediately, creating a protective shield around them both. Without missing a beat, she pops another one of her skills and starts healing Arata. In seconds, the gash on his body starts knitting itself shut, and Arata lets out a nasty cough before he can finally push himself up. Aoi tells him it's just some quick first aid and asks if he's still good to go, and Arata thanks her for the clutch save. He assures her he can still throw down, but their relief is cut short when the massive ogre roars and barrels towards them again. Arata can't believe it. For a beast that huge, it's shockingly fast, and it's coming right for them with zero chill. The ogre tries to turn them into a pancake with a massive fist, but Aoi's barrier pops up just in time to block the hit. She's clearly struggling to hold back its insane power, and Arata knows they're totally screwed if they don't end this thing like right now. Arata's eyes dart around, and that's when he spots it, a small unarmored gap right on the ogre's neck. He gets it instantly, that's the weak spot. Hitting it is their only shot at taking this monster down. Just like their last play, Ui runs interference, keeping the ogre occupied, while Arata scrambles to find the perfect angle. But this time the ogre's not falling for it. It somehow senses his plan and immediately switches its focus from Aoi. It swings a colossal fist right at Arata, but in that split second before impact, Arata sees his chance, a wide-open shot at the ogre's neck. Without a moment's hesitation, he unleashes his cannon right at the weak point. The blast hits different, staggering the beast and forcing it to its knees. Aoi screams at Arata, telling him to finish it off now. Fueled by the thought that he's done being the one who needs saving, Arata summons his Shadow Blade. But before he can land the final blow, Aoi hits him with a buff, juicing him up for the attack. Arata cracks a smile, feeling the power-up from Aoi surge through him. He bolts towards the kneeling ogre and launches himself into the air, pouring every last ounce of his strength into one final swing. The sheer force behind the attack is insane, cleanly slicing the ogre's head right off its shoulders. Blood gushes out like a fountain as the massive monster finally falls to our MC. Arata just stands there staring up at the roof of the cave, catching his breath. And boom, the level up notification pops. Aoi beaming rushes over to Arata with her hand raised for a high five. Arata's both stoked and a little surprised, but he slaps her hand, returning the gesture. But with the boss defeated, the whole fissure dungeon starts to crumble around them, and the two book it for the exit. They've got to get out before they get buried alive in the collapsing fissure. They just barely manage to scramble out before the entire dungeon disperses into nothing. It hits Arata that he still hasn't found his brother, but hey, at least he got a massive power boost. He's mulling this over when the exhaustion finally hits him like a truck and he collapses to his knees. Aoi sees he's in rough shape, so she grabs his hand and tells him to come with her. Arata figures he's being dragged back to the infirmary again, but nope, Aoi pulls him straight to the Navy Guild building instead. She ushers him into a waiting room and hands him a fresh set of clothes to change into. She then ducks out, telling Arata she's got to file a report real quick. 15 minutes go by, and Arata starts wondering what's taking her so long, so he decides to pop his head out to see what's up. Just as he steps out, some girl comes sprinting down the hall, trips and nearly faceplants, but Arata catches her just in time. He's about to make some small talk when a crucial detail clicks in his head, and he immediately shuts down any potential rom-com moment. He just turns and bolts for the entrance. It dawns on him after he helped her up, that was the guildmaster of the Navy Guild. And there's no way in hell Arata can afford to get stuck in a Q&A session with her right now. Rei, on the other hand, is just standing there like, bruh, why'd he run away? She just shrugs it off and heads to the conference room. Aoi is already in there waiting for her. Rei gives her a warm welcome back, but Aoi isn't here for pleasantries and cuts right to the chase. She tells Rei there's something urgent she needs to discuss and immediately starts going off about what Takatora has been up to. He's been making some shady moves behind their back. Aoi is so fired up that Rei literally has to tell her to chill out for a second while she keeps venting. Finally, Aoi takes a breath and starts to properly explain the whole situation to Rei. Aoi drops a bombshell on Rei, revealing that Takatora has been shamelessly exploiting the fissures for his own personal gain, which totally blindsides Rei. She realizes she's going to have to handle him herself, but honestly, she's still low-key worried about Arata, especially after that close call she had with him earlier. The next day, Arata is just thanking his lucky stars he managed to slip away from Rei. He's praying she isn't onto him when he stumbles into an alley and spots a couple of slayers getting wrecked. They're struggling to protect a little kid from a nasty two-headed magic beast that's spitting fire everywhere. But Arata, he doesn't hesitate for a second, just bolts straight toward the monster. He closes the distance in a flash, and with a single punch juiced up with his shadow power, he completely shatters the beast's fire blast. The slayer who was shielding the kid can't believe his eyes. This new guy is so cracked he's not even sure if he's a registered slayer. Arata isn't about to let a good farming opportunity go to waste, so he whips out his massive shadow sword. The slayer is absolutely stunned by this, having never seen anything like that kind of power before. Arata now stands between the monster and the kids, ready for a showdown. The beast charges him, but Arata holds his ground, locking into a perfect thrust stance. And with one clean strike, he completely murks the terrifying monster. What he doesn't know is that another slayer has been watching him from the shadows, and they're definitely intrigued. Over at the Slayers Association HQ in Japan, the 5 top guildmasters known as the Kings are gathered for a meeting. You've got Jinayusuke Dojo from the Sewa Guild and Ryo Kuji from the Leon Flame Guild. Then there's Rei Isaki representing the Navy Guild. And finally, Takuto Nagihara from the Jade Sky Guild and Shion Inamori from the Kaizen Guild. Dojo kicks things off, pointing out the first major issue on their plate, the insane number of fissures. They've been popping up absolutely everywhere lately. Ryo chimes in, agreeing with him, and mentioning a recent incident where a bronze rank fissure went haywire, unleashing a horde of magic beasts. Rei adds that they're also seeing cases where boss monsters appear in fissures that are way stronger than the fissure's actual rank. It's like the whole system is bugged. Ryo, however, couldn't care less if the fissures are acting weird. To him, it's just a better training opportunity for his slayers. Takuto just smirks hearing Ryo's take on the situation. He calls Ryo out for being reckless, which totally sets Ryo off, who jumps to his feet and starts yelling at Takuto. Ryo starts flexing, claiming his guild has done way more than Takuto's, but Takuto just stays cool, completely ignoring him. He just lets Ryo rage until he finally sits back down, since all this chaos has only started happening recently. Rei wonders out loud what could be causing it. Doju theorizes that something might be changing with the magic beasts themselves. He thinks that's what's causing the sudden spike in fissure activity, but he reassures his fellow kings that whatever this change is, it's the clue that will eventually lead them to the truth. He orders everyone to report even the smallest changes, and they all agree. Next up, Dojo brings up the mysterious unregistered slayer, who's been hopping from one fissure to the next without being part of any guild. Dojo admits they have no idea what his motives are, but he suspects the changes aren't just limited to the magic beasts. He thinks slayers might be changing too. Rei then tells the group that someone matching that description showed up at her guild. Elwi mentioned his skills were unlike anything she'd ever seen, but before Rei got a chance to speak with him, he vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, we see that Takuto is the guy who was watching Arata from the rooftop earlier, but he decides to keep that little piece of information to himself for now. Rei then speculates that maybe this unidentified slayer thinks his skills are so unique and different from everyone else's that he feels like he doesn't need to join a guild. Just as Rei finishes her thought, Takuto cuts in, throwing out a wild theory. What if Arata is actually a magic beast? Ryokuji immediately loses it, telling him to shut up and stop talking nonsense while defending Arata. Rei is shocked to learn that Ryokuji has actually met this guy, and at this point Ryokuji decides there's no point in hiding it. He lets them know the kid's definitely strong, but there's no way he's a magic beast. Takuto just cracks up hearing this, admitting he was totally messing with them. Dojo then tells his crew that grabbing Arata is basically optional since they don't have the hard evidence for a real arrest warrant yet. Shion finally speaks up, telling her teammates that if Arata isn't coming quietly, they have zero reason to get obsessed with him. After dropping her 2 cents on the meeting, Shion gets up to leave like the absolute boss she is. She claims she has a tea meeting she can't miss, but as she reaches the door, she clocks a small camera mounted up high. She has no clue what it is, but little does she or anyone else on the team know Takatora is the one watching their every move. He's using a camera he secretly planted in the room earlier. From what he's seen, Takatora realizes Arata is becoming a serious problem for the 5 kings, and a plan starts forming to capture him. He figures if he pulls it off, his own influence within the association will skyrocket. Not only that, but it would end all the current chaos. It's the perfect way to solve 2 problems at once. He knows that if he's going to catch this unpredictable kid, he needs more information. Based on the intel he has, he's betting Arata has picked up the unique skill of light. Meanwhile, his brother has fully transformed into a magic beast. With these 2 key pieces of information, Takatora is pretty sure he knows exactly where Arata will show up next. He rises from his chair, deciding he needs to deal with Arata himself before it's too late. A little later, Arata sees a crowd of people running for their lives from a magic beast, but he being built different runs straight toward it. Right before he can reach the monster, he's cut off by Takatora, who's decked out in full Slayer armor. And he's wearing the most annoying smile you've ever seen. Takatora starts mocking Arata for trying so hard to stay alive, making it clear he's there to drag him away. He tells Arata to just come along quietly and make things easy. But Arata just screams at him to get the hell out of his way. Takatora then stoops low, making fun of Arata's brother turning into a monster. He laughs right in Arata's face, telling him he's going to enjoy killing his brother. That's the last straw. Pure rage takes over, and Arata unleashes his burst cannon right at Takatora. Takatora doesn't even flinch as the massive attack flies toward him. He just casually absorbs the whole thing. Arata is completely stunned by the one-shot defense, but refuses to back down, whipping out his shadow blade. He dashes toward Takatora, but he's just painfully outmatched in speed. Takatora fires off a long-range attack, trying to completely consume Arata. Arata is forced to block with his sword, but he can't handle the raw power of the attack. He gets blasted backwards and slams into the ground in agony. Takatora wastes no time gloating, telling Arata his power is only considered unique because it's new. In reality, he says it's pathetically weak. Arata somehow crawls back to his feet, wondering what's going on since he was supposed to have leveled up. Both his burst cannon and his blazing shadow blade should be stronger. He starts to wonder if it's just impossible for him to win against a Golden Slayer no matter what he does. But even staring defeat in the face, Arata manages to get back on his feet. Takatora is genuinely surprised the kid still has any fight left in him. Arata then unleashes a skill called Soot Darkness. A cloud of black smoke instantly fills the area. Takatora doesn't even bother to move, assuming Arata is just putting up a lame smokescreen. He's wondering what the plan is when suddenly a shadow attack zips right at his throat. He barely manages to block it with his own powers, and furiously starts swatting away other bizarre attacks coming out of the gloom. When the smoke clears a little, he sees Arata charging right for him. Our boy almost cuts him down, but Takatora blocks the hit with ease. Arata tells him that this is the end of the road for him, but Takatora just argues back. He goes on a monologue saying he'll keep getting stronger until he becomes one of the 5 kings, and on top of that, he's going to take over the Navy Guild. His ultimate goal is to gain total control over the entire association. Arata retorts that there's no way in hell he's just going to stand by and watch that happen. Takatora sneers, telling Arata he's not even worthy of being called one of the 5 kings before knocking him flat on his back. He tells him to stay down where he belongs with the rest of the lowlifes. Without wasting a second, Takatora summons his ice blade. He openly declares his plan to use Arata as a sacrifice, mocking him, and saying his puny sword is a complete joke compared to his own. But Arata, spitting out blood, reveals that the powerful orb Takatora is flaunting was actually stolen from him. He growls that his older brother would still be human if Takatora hadn't jacked that orb from their family. The memory of Takatora being the root of all his suffering makes Arata snap, and a sinister dark aura erupts from his body. Fueled by pure rage, Arata launches himself at Takatora, swinging his sword wildly. Takatora blocks it easily low-key, noticing Arata's gotten a bit stronger, but still thinks he's absolutely no match for him. With a simple push, he sends Arata stumbling backward, telling him to just give up and come quietly. But then Takatora decides to show him just how outclassed he is by unleashing one of his ultimate skills. With the words Ice Emperor's Prison, the entire area instantly freezes over, trapping Arata in a cage of solid ice. He can't move a muscle, completely locked down. Takatora then summons a barrage of massive icicles to finish him off, and with no way to escape, Arata is brutally knocked unconscious. The dude has zero chill, even making fun of Arata for passing out from an attack that he didn't even put his full power into. He raises his sword, ready to end Arata's life, so he can feed the association whatever fake story he wants. But just as he's about to strike, a blast of ice slams into him, stopping his attack cold. He's completely shocked. When he turns around, he sees Rei and Aoi giving him the nastiest death glare imaginable. Rei immediately calls him out, saying she's had enough of him causing trouble everywhere he goes. She demands to know why the hell he's starting a massive fight in public in the middle of the day. Takatora's jaw drops when he sees the guildmaster, and she reveals she's been watching him this whole time. Rei says it's clear that whenever she's not around, Takatora thinks he can do whatever he wants. He tries to justify himself, claiming, Arata is an irregular, but Rei claps back, saying that doesn't give him the right to beat someone half to death. Aoi rushes over to Arata's side to help. In his dazed state, Arata sees Rei and faintly recognizes her from the guild. Aoi activates her healing skill, and as his wounds begin to close, Arata finally opens his eyes to see her looking completely surprised. He tries to get up, but Aoi gently pushes him back down, warning him that his wounds will just tear open again if he moves. With his last bit of strength, Arata screams out his hatred for Takatora, vowing he'll never forgive him, before finally passing out. Takatora then tries to threaten the girls, telling them that if they heal Arata and take him in, they'll be going directly against the association's will. But Rei shuts him down, pointing out that the association hasn't actually issued an official arrest order yet. And since that's the case, she's going to formally request that Arata be placed under the Navy Guild's direct surveillance. Takatora tries to argue, but Rei cuts him off, stating that she and Aoi will be taking full responsibility for Arata from now on. Playing a different card, Takatora reminds Rei that he's also a Golden Slayer just like her. Rei asks him what his point is. He then slimy suggests that they should join forces to expand the guild. He even offers to use his ridiculously wealthy Goto Corporation to fund the whole thing. Rei doesn't miss a beat, telling the creep to not even think about coming any closer to her. Takatora is forced to back off, but smugly says she'll come running back to him once she realizes how awesome he is. Rei looks absolutely disgusted by his presence and tells Aoi to get Arata to the infirmary. She promises she'll be there soon. A short while later, Arata wakes up in the Navy Guild's infirmary. He immediately tries to bolt from the bed, but Iwai is there to stop him, telling him to sit tight because she has a ton of questions for him. Just then, Aoi gets a weird feeling, realizing Rei still hasn't shown up. She tells Arata to stay put and not even think about running off again before rushing out of the room. Iwai speeds down the hallway and finds Rei, who shamelessly claims she got lost trying to find the infirmary. Iwai grabs her hand, scolding her for getting lost in her own guild headquarters. No cap, Aoi can't believe it. For someone who's so completely cracked in a fight, Rei is absolutely hopeless when it comes to directions. So the two of them head back to the infirmary. The second they walk in, Aoi immediately grills Arata, asking why he dipped from the guild last time, and on top of that, why he was throwing hands with Takatora. Arata stammers, trying to come up with an answer, but Rei cuts in, letting him know he could have protection. All he has to do is officially register with the guild. She adds that there are a ton of other perks that come with it too. She just can't wrap her head around why he's so hesitant to join up. But Arata stays completely silent. So Rei lays it on the line, telling him that no matter what, he's going to be under surveillance. She makes it clear, though, that they have zero interest in trying to control his life. After dropping all that, Rei asks if he's finally ready to talk. Arata opens his mouth, looking like he's about to say something. But then he clams up again, realizing that if he snitches, he might be putting his own brother in the line of fire, and he just can't risk that. Seeing that he's not going to crack, Rei decides to back off and tells them it's time to head out. Arata is just sitting there like, bro, what? But Aoi is totally hyped to hear that. Later that night, Arata finds himself at a restaurant with the girls of all things. He's low-key, shocked that he got out of that intense situation earlier so easily. Aoi points out that he's been fighting non-stop for days, and while being a workaholic is one thing, she says it's important for him to chill out and take a break sometimes. Honestly, that sounds amazing to Arata, who realizes he hasn't had a proper meal in what feels like an eternity. Right in front of him is a whole spread of incredible food and meat that he can just chow down on. He figures he'll just rest for a little while before getting back to the search for his brother, and Aoi encourages him to eat as much as he wants. Apparently, the guild is covering the entire bill. Arata's genuinely surprised by how generous these two are being. He realizes they've been helping him out over and over again, and he hasn't done a single thing for them in return. For a hot second, he wonders if it's even okay to accept, but then the smell of the food hits him, and he knows he can't hold back. Without another thought, Arata dives in, thanking them both for everything. As he finally enjoys a good meal, tears actually start rolling down his cheeks. No cap, it's been forever. The girls join in on the feast, and they look genuinely happy while they eat. Arata can't help but wonder if he'd ever have gotten a chance like this to just hang out with them, if he hadn't found that orb. After they've eaten for a bit, Rei decides to ask Arata a few questions. She tells him it's a two-way street, and he's free to ask her anything he wants as well. Her first question is simple. Has he been a slayer for long? Awai immediately starts teasing Arata from the side, telling him how lucky he is to get a one-on-one with Rei. Apparently, it's a huge deal that even guild members rarely get. Seizing the opportunity, Arata tells Rei he's got a question of his own. He asks her how the guild is able to track down magic fissures. He's trying to figure out a way to get to the next fissure before Takatora does. Rei reveals that they basically predict them the same way scientists predict earthquakes. She explains that they analyze a ton of factors like geomagnetism, gravity, and the patterns of past disturbances in the field. They combine all that data to get a rough location of where a new magic fissure will open. The only problem is, the accuracy is only about 60%. Meanwhile, Aoi spots Rei actually smiling at Arata, which is something she thinks is incredibly weird. All of a sudden, Rei gets an alert on her phone telling her that a magic fissure is about to appear near the LK building. It's set to open within the hour, and from their evaluation, it looks like it's going to be a silver-class fissure. The moment she sees this, Rei's expression turns serious, and she tells the others that they don't have any more time to be sitting around. Their dinner break is officially over. She's got a gut feeling that some seriously high-ranking monsters are about to spawn in the fissure, so she turns to Aoi, who's instantly on board, ready to roll without a second thought. Of course, Arete immediately says he's down to clown since Aoi is going to be there. Rei hears this and gives Arata the green light to head into the fissure, but she throws in a heavy warning he better not let his guard down for a second, cause this mission could easily turn around and wreck him. Arata just brushes it off, promising her he'll be on his toes the whole time. But deep down, Arata's hyping himself up, thinking that after all the grinding he's done, a silver rank fissure should be no problem. Aoi and Arata then head out, making a beeline for the exact spot where the fissure is predicted to spawn. And boom, right on schedule, the rift cracks open, and just as they expected, it's a silver rank fissure. Aoi can practically feel the hype radiating off Arata. She asks if he's doing okay, and Arata just tells her not to sweat it, claiming he can easily solo this thing. So Arata and Aoi dive headfirst into the fissure to start clearing it, and this time they materialize inside some ancient ruins. Arata finally has to ask what the deal is with these fissures anyway. Aoi explains that they're supposedly just dimensions where beasts live, but she adds that nobody knows for sure if that's the whole story. Aoi mentions that these fissures are supposed to collapse the moment the boss monster is defeated, but she adds she's pretty damn sure that some of them don't just disappear like they're supposed to. This revelation totally floors Arata. Arata is mid-sentence talking about how weirdly empty the place is when a sudden noise makes it clear they're not alone. Before they can even process what's happening, a level 25 sandworm erupts from the sand right underneath them. It gives them a terrifying look at its massive mouth packed with gnarly teeth before it dives straight back into the sand. Aoi tells Arata that their best bet is to listen super closely for any sign of the sandworm. Aoi focuses trying to pinpoint its location with just her hearing. And sure enough, she picks up on it. The sandworm is coming straight for them, right before it bursts out from the ground. But then she hits him with the bad news. There isn't just one. Bruh, they're completely surrounded and didn't even see it coming. Aoi is starting to freak out with no clue what to do, but Arata just tells her to take a breath and stay calm. Arata calmly places his hand on the ground and lets his suit flow out, spreading it thin to pick up on the tiniest vibrations in the sand. With this move, Arata's confident he can basically get a live map of every single sandworm tunneling toward them. And just as he planned, he immediately pinpoints where the next sandworm is about to pop up. The second the sandworm's head breaks through the surface, Arata's already in position, his shadow blade gleaming and ready. He lops the sandworm's head clean off and realizes that taking out the rest is going to be a total cakewalk. As long as he knows where they're going to pop up, they're basically just free, EXP waiting to be. Aoi is completely stunned by Arata's move, comparing his new technique to a game of high-stakes whack-a-mole. Arata admits that this is all he was thinking about while he was stuck recovering in the infirmary. He explains that he had a theory he figured he could sync up his senses with the suit, if he just spread it out thinly across a surface. Since he was literally stuck in a hospital bed and couldn't move, this mental training was all he could practice. Arata's just relieved it worked so perfectly on the first try, and it's dawning on him that he can use the suit for way more than just fighting. Awai is blown away by his big brain move and says that with this strategy, the sandworms are basically toast. So Arata keeps using the same strategy, and in what feels like no time at all, he's wiped out every last sandworm. Now only the Fisher's boss remains. But he warns Aoi that it's not over yet, and tells her not to get complacent. They finally reach what looks like a massive tomb, and Aoi immediately warns Arata to be ready because her instincts are telling her something is seriously off. She hasn't even finished the sentence when a massive stinger radiating a seriously menacing aura shoots up from the sand right behind them. Arata's first instinct is to think it's just another worm, but Aoi immediately shoots him down, telling him this is something else entirely. She warns him that if that thing's stinger even grazes them, they'll be begging for a quick end. Just then, the stinger bursts from the sand behind Arata, but my guy is built different this time. Before the stinger can even get close, he spins around and slices it clean off with his shadow blade. Arata scoffs, saying the beast is just wasting its breath, trying to hide because he's already spread his suit deep underground to track it. It's a classic move he's used before. Aoi is low-key impressed, giving him props for the big brain move of setting a trap in advance. She's got to admit Arata has seriously leveled up. Arata's feeling himself too, knowing he's way stronger, and with Aoi backing him up, he feels unstoppable. He figures with his current stats, and he could probably throw down with silver-ranked hunters, maybe even higher. But right then, the real boss of the fissure decides to show up. It finally reveals itself from beneath the sands, and it's a super pissed-off level 29 death scorpion. Even though Arata already clipped its stinger, this absolute unit is still a menace with its massive claws. The scorpion immediately goes on the offensive, swinging one of its giant pincers right at them. But Aoi jumps in like a champ, tanking the massive hit with her shield. Still, the scorpion's raw power is too much, and Aoi is clearly struggling to hold on, which Arata notices immediately. He knows he's got to do something fast before things get real ugly. He charges straight for the scorpion, but the monster spots him and swings its other claw, trying to cut him clean in half. But thanks to his cracked agility stat, he manages to dodge the attack by a hair. Suddenly, Arata finds himself floating in midair, lifted up by a water platform Aoi just created for him. She yells for him to use the high ground to get an edge on the terrifying scorpion, and Arata gives her a quick thanks. He doesn't waste the opportunity, launching off the platform and decapitating the scorpion in one clean slice, spraying green goo everywhere. Aoi runs over totally hyped and relieved that they actually managed to take the monster down. Arata is feeling pretty good. He tells her they can finally pack it up and head home, but that's when Aoi points out that something feels totally off about this whole situation. She brings up a good point: the dungeon cleared notification hasn't popped up, which has literally never happened before. Since they clapped the boss, the fissure should be collapsing by now, but it's not. It finally clicks for Arata what she's getting at, and he asks if it's even possible for a fissure to just not close. And right on cue, Arata feels this absolutely bone-chilling presence nearby. A voice cuts through the silence, coming from a creepy dude with long ears sitting nearby, radiating a dark purple aura like a bad omen. Looking like some kind of demon, the guy casually says how much fun it was watching them fight the scorpion. Arata and Aoi are completely stunned to see another magic beast, especially since they already killed the fisher's boss. What really messes with their heads, though, is the fact that this thing can actually freaking talk. The dude then brags about how he loves controlling beasts to hunt down slayers. That's when it dawns on Aoi this guy was the puppet master pulling the scorpion's strings the whole time. A monster controlling a boss monster. That's a concept so wild, the magic beast then decides it's time for a little show and tell to demonstrate what he can do. He glances at the dead scorpion's parts, and with a flick of his wrist, he reanimates them, telling the creature to fight until there's nothing left. The horrifying realization hits Arata. This guy can control monsters even after they've been chopped into pieces. The reanimated scorpion charges at them, forcing them to frantically blast it with long-range attacks to try and break it apart for good. The demon dude looks totally unimpressed by the performance. He then gives them a chilling suggestion: maybe they should become his new puppets instead. Aoi's mind is racing, trying to figure out what kind of final boss they've stumbled upon. Then with a snap of his fingers, the terrifying dude rips open a whole new fissure He invites them inside, promising them a grand welcome if they dare to follow. Arata is just stunned. He can't believe they've run into a fissure opening up inside of another fissure. It clicks for Arata: this dude is hijacking fissures and collecting bosses. Aoi confirms his fears, telling him that the portal in front of them It looks like this is the main headquarters. This particular fissure is giving off way more dangerous vibes than any they've encountered before. But AoE realizes that to clear the original fissure, they've got to go inside and take down the big boss himself. It finally hits them that the real fight is just getting started. Even though they're low-key terrified, the two of them step into the fissure. The place looks like a whole castle, and Arata wonders if it's connected to the human world, all while something is watching them from the shadows above. And they have no clue. Suddenly, the magical beast from above dives straight at Arata, its sword swinging down to take his head off. But Arata whips around just in the nick of time, firing his cannon and taking the beast out for good. He literally blows a massive hole right through its chest. Just then they see that they're completely surrounded by a massive horde of monsters, and they all look like boss-level threats. And it's obvious they're all being controlled by the main dude. Arata can't believe how shameless this guy is, turning other monsters into his personal puppets. Aoi tells Arata that she thinks they're strong enough to wipe out all of these monsters. Arata pulls out his sword and starts slicing through them, but for every one he cuts down, another takes its place. As they start to feel their stamina drain, they realize they have to stop wasting time on these boss-class minions. Their only real target is the puppet master himself. Aoi points out the direction they need to go, and the two of them make a break for it with all the puppets chasing right behind them. They finally make it to the throne room, where the main villain is just sitting there waiting for them. But just because they reached him doesn't mean it's over. He's got these two terrifying knights by his side, both holding absolutely gigantic swords. The dude smugly tells them that while they might have cleared out a bunch of his puppets, he's got way more where that came from. Aoi claps back, telling him they're just gonna kill him instead, because once he's gone, all his so-called puppets will be gone too. The villain just laughs in their faces. He tells them they can talk a big game, but to him, they're nothing more than a couple of insects. Arata then asks him what the whole point of gathering all these magical beasts is, and the guy just says it's because he thinks it's fun. He thinks turning other powerful creatures into his puppets and controlling them is the greatest feeling in the world. He then says humans are no different, which is why he's dead set on making Arata and Aoi his next puppets. In his mind, since he's the strongest one here, it's his natural right to prey on anyone weaker than him. Arata decides it's time to ask him the most important question. He needs to know if there's any way to turn a human who's been transformed into a magic beast back into their normal self. Aoi is completely stunned that he would ask that, but the big bad demon instantly puts two and two together, realizing there must be someone Arata desperately wants to save. Arata furiously demands an answer, and the dude casually says he might be willing to tell him. That is, if Arata can actually defeat him. Right then, the villain unleashes his power, which turns out to be blood manipulation. Shards of blood sharp as knives shoot toward Arata, who manages to block most of them with his own power. But a few of them still manage to slice into him. While Arata's still reeling from the blood attack, one of the knights closes in on him, swinging its massive sword. It's about to be game over, but Aoi, as always, comes to his rescue, throwing up a shield to block the knight's devastating blow. But pulling off that move alone puts a massive strain on Aoi's body. Arata rushes to her side to check on her, but she just tells him she's fine, even though it's obvious she's really not. Aoi then tells Arata to go finish off the demon while she holds off the two knights. Arata promises he'll end this quickly and charges the demon fueled by a new determination. He absolutely refuses to let Aoi get hurt, even one more time, model. Barely able to move, Aoi pops a quick healing spell on herself, needing every last bit of strength to handle these knights and get back to Arata. Aoi knows her only shot is to take out all these monsters in one go, and there's only one skill that's up for the job. She pours every last ounce of her power into the one move she's banking on, charging up and unleashing a massive energy blast. The beam completely shreds the knights into pieces. But of course, the knights just start putting themselves back together again. Aoi isn't even surprised. She low-key expected some crap like this to happen. Aoi braces herself, ready to throw down with whatever dregs of power she's got left in the tank. Meanwhile, as Arata rushes the big bad, the demon notices our MC is stopping his own bleeding by mixing soot and blood to make it clot. The demon thinks this is a pretty slick trick, and he cracks a smile, asking Arata if he's from the same world he is. Arata is completely floored by this, and figures out the dude somehow knows about his unique skill. Instead of spilling the beans, the demon just suggests they cut the chit-chat and finish their fight. He says he wants to see which one is stronger, his blood or Arata's weird soot powers. The demon hurls a wave of blood at Arata, but our boy just evaporates it with his burst cannon, so the demon has to try a new tactic. He summons a blood whip and lashes it out at Arata, waiting to see how he's going to counter this one. Arata instantly slices it apart with his shadow blade, and honestly, seeing this level of skill gets the demon totally hyped. He keeps spamming the blood whip attack, but Arata just keeps parrying it. The demon starts teasing him. He eggs Arata on telling him to stop holding back and unleash his full power. Arata, however, knows exactly what's up. The demon's just trying to wear him down in a battle of attrition. The demon goes back to mocking Arata, telling him what a boring-ass fighter he is. Then he crosses a major line telling Arata that once he's done with him, he might just go after Aoi next. Without missing a beat, the demon fires a blood attack directly at Aoi, who's already struggling against the knights. Arata whips around and screams Aoi's name, but in that exact moment he feels a blood spear impale him straight through the back. He's totally stunned by the cheap shot coughing up blood, before crashing to the ground while the demon mocks him for looking away mid-battle. The demon then gets ready to turn Arata into his puppet, just like he said he would, aiming a blood spike to finish the job. But somehow, Aoi manages to dive in front of Arata, protecting him once again. The demon is pissed that Aoi is wrecking his fun, but she just admits that he must be pretty good to have actually taken Arata down. Instead of wasting breath arguing, Aoi secretly starts pouring her healing power into Arata. Once the demon figures it out, he starts laying into Aoi, telling her Arata died because he was trying to save her. He tells her she can stop healing him, since there's no point. The demon's words hit her like a freight train. The idea that she's why Arata died makes her flash back. She remembers watching a monster kill her sister Minato right before her eyes, and Aoi almost loses herself to the memory. But she forces herself to stay calm. She knows the demon is just running his mouth trying to get into her head. Aoi figures out all she has to do is buy some time until Arata is back on his feet. Because no cap, Aoi is not about to give up on Arata. So, the demon decides to play with them both, whipping his blood lash at Aoi, but she just deflects the attack with her water shield. Seeing that she uses water attributes makes the demon laugh out loud. He keeps up the assault, but Aoi just blocks every single thing he throws at her. She tells him straight up that her water power exists precisely to stop the spilling of blood. It turns out her water attribute has the unique property of being able to blend with anything. That's exactly why her power is so clutch for a support role. She's been grinding like crazy, putting in overtime just to master her support abilities. The demon finally puts two and two together, realizing Aoi is weakening his attacks by diluting his blood with her water. He doesn't really seem to care though, and just figures he will have to bleed a little more to get the job done. Aoi knows that if this keeps up, she'll eventually get overwhelmed by the demon's sheer volume of power. But right on cue, Arata finally regains consciousness, and Aoi doesn't waste a second passing him a bubble of water. She tells him to combo the water bubble with soot to completely change the game, and Arata doesn't hesitate, but the demon just scoffs at them. He tells them that it doesn't matter what they try, they have absolutely zero chance of winning. The demon cracks his blood whip like he always does, but this time Arata meets him head-on with soot supercharged by water particles. The new attack straight up eats his blood magic, leaving the demon completely shook. Little did he know, water is the ultimate chameleon and an insane power amplifier. Aoi decides to tag out, telling Arata it's all on him now to take this monster down. Arata doesn't waste a single second, immediately charging straight towards the demon. Whipping out his shadow blade, he carves a deep slash right across the demon's chest. Blood explodes everywhere, and the demon actually feels the full force of Arata's attack. He smashes into the floor, clutching his chest in pure agony. He has to admit Arata is built different, being the very first human to ever make him feel pain. The demon can't wrap his head around it. He's always the one with the upper hand, but the tables were about to be flipped upside down. The demon, whose name is Valgard, suddenly gets a flashback to the moment he was about to leave his own domain. His subordinate had begged him not to go, but he was stubborn, and before he left, the guy warned him that the one thing he always overlooked would come back to bite him in the ass. Valgard is floored that everything is happening exactly like his subordinate said it would. Arata immediately demands that Valgard teach him how to turn magic beasts back into people. But Valgard just laughs in his face, saying he only promised to talk if Arata actually won. Arata is absolutely furious and screams at him, demanding to know how he can turn his brother back into a human. Valgard takes this dramatic deep breath, like he's about to reveal a huge secret, but then just flips the switch and starts cackling at him. He tells him it's impossible. Valgard claims there's no way in hell for a human to go back to normal, once they've been transformed into a magic beast. The color completely drains from Arata's face, as shock and despair wash over him. Valgard uses this moment to mock him one last time, before he dies, turning into a pile of dust right in front of him. Arata's level skyrockets from 15 to 21, but he just stands there totally frozen. Aoi walks up behind him, gently asking if he's alright. Right then, an item drops, and Aoi quickly picks it up, getting Arata's attention. This is wild because an item has literally never dropped after one of their fights before. Aoi tells Arata he might get a special skill from it. She passes it to him, and when he grabs it, he confirms it's a skill. Vassalization. Arata recognizes it as the same cracked skill Valgard was using, but he couldn't care less about it right now. The system explains that the skill lets him bring any dead thing back to life as a loyal puppet he can control. But there's a catch. The resurrected vassals are just empty shells, losing all their past abilities and only existing to obey their master's commands. After the fissure vanishes, Arata and Aoi find themselves back in the real world. Arata doesn't look like a winner at all. In fact, he looks like he just lost everything. What Valgard said just keeps replaying in his head, but he refuses to believe there's no way out of this nightmare. Aoi can tell he's spiraling and tells him to take a breath, promising that they'll figure something out together. Arata then admits that even if he can't turn his brother completely human again, he's still determined to save him no matter what. Once they got back to the guild, Aoi gave Rei the full report on everything that went down. Rei feels terrible for Arata and connects the dots, figuring out that his power comes from the same dark source as Valgard's. Aoi then suggests a risky plan: they capture Arata's brother and put him under constant surveillance. Aoi makes it clear to Rei that Arata would never ever hurt innocent people, even if he shares his power with magic beasts. Aoi promises Rei she knows this for a fact from fighting by his side, and says if it ever came down to it, she would be the one to stop Arata herself, no hesitation. Seeing how dead serious Aoi is, Rei agrees to consider it, but tells her to give Arata some space to rest for now. She tells Aoi she'll talk to the association about her proposition. Meanwhile, Arata goes back to his old empty house. This whole apartment is looking like an absolute rat's den. No cap, it feels like no human has ever even stepped